Hey guys, thanks for having me. Adrian Evans from John Lewis. Fantastic setup from Muck there. I'm going to take a slightly different approach to the question. So in a world where all this stuff is really true and exciting, how do you create the stage for mobile to be performant in your organization? So you've internalized all the market trends, you understand your customer, but how do you get your business behind mobile to make it successful? Cue Hovis music. So a little bit about John Lewis. Obviously everybody here, I don't need you guys to put your hands up, you know who we are. The story, an extra bit of context that might be interesting is the way the organization talks about itself is as a 100-year-old experiment. So the idea is how could a co-owned business be business for a better world? So our purpose is how do we make our customers, communities and suppliers happier through doing work with us? So when we're thinking about why do we exist and why should we create profit, it's to create a world that is a better place, and that's at the heart of what we do, regardless of whether you're in the brand team or you're creating digital products or you're stacking shelves in a Waitrose. This is the first John Lewis on Oxford Street, if anyone's interested. That's a picture from 1882. That was bombed out, so it doesn't exist anymore. A few years later, the business bought a grocer called Waite and Rose, and now we're 34 department stores and about 330 grocers. Those businesses run independently, so my purview is the app over in John Lewis. There was a separate team running the Waitrose one, which asked me later about what that feels like. We're famous for a lot of stuff. One thing we are famous for is the profit share model. So everybody that works at John Lewis gets access to the profit at the end of the year. And the papers love these pictures. You can probably guess the era from the fashion in the picture. All these guys are just shopping from the wrong rack. But the bonuses used to be as high as 20%. And that's back in the 90s, early noughties, where retail was booming. You guys don't need me to list out all the reasons why that is no longer true and why it's hard. The competition is harder than ever. One of the interesting things I don't think we've felt hit yet is the mortgage time bomb that everybody's talking about. What's that going to mean in the next 12 to 18 months? Even Timpsons, in their really fantastic and optimistic profit statement the other week, said they were expecting a bad year next year. That's the world that we're in today. We think, we hope, we continue to believe that one of the reasons that people shop with us is quality and relationships. That was true at 20%, that was true when the Hovis music was playing a second ago, and it will be true in the future. And that is where apps come in. So the whole premise, you've heard about it a couple of times today, we think is true too. So we have our most loyal and best customers are shopping in the app. About 50% of total app base is the top 2 most valuable segments for us. About half the people looking at the app have looked at the app already that day, so we are driving engagement, we're driving those behaviors. But critically, it leads to value. So we think an app customer is about 30% more valuable to us than a customer that doesn't have the app. And that is absolutely critical to how we get our business around what we're trying to do. And I think there's 3 bits of the story that I want to tell. I've used emojis because you guys are cool, and I'm not cool enough to use GIFs. So this is where we've gone for. First up is strategy, right? So it's an overused word and it means a ton of things to people. But really what we're talking about is choices. So what are you guys going to not do so you guys can do something else? And how do you help your business understand that story? The number of times I get asked, or I have asked others, why do we have an app? Is a trope of a question. You need a good answer to that. And the number I gave you before is a good answer, but what's the rest of the answer? Who is your customer? Is it all your customers? Is it a subset of your customers? How does your app create value? Are you a platform? Are you a product? These are all questions that I think we're all grappling with, but to have an answer to that crucially gives you bandwidth to do the things that will create value and create money for you. By not having an answer, you're going to spread yourself too thin. You'll end up with a beige answer doing too much or none of it very well. So for me, it starts with a clear articulation of why do we have an app? How does it make money? The middle one is all about product discipline. I hope I don't need to sell this to this room. I'm sure everybody's already here. But having cross-disciplinary teams with a healthy tension between those professions with clear OKRs is how we motivate and empower people to go and deliver the strategy that we've just defined. And then a bit of cheese, but it takes a village to create an app in my view. So you can't do this on your own. You could have a fantastic strategy, a brilliant product team, super aligned to OKRs and still fail. This is about how do you get your whole organization behind you. Are your tech guys behind you? Are your marketing guys behind you? No one's going to download it if they haven't heard about it, right? If you've got stores, are your store people behind you? How do you bring the whole organization to bear? If you open a John Lewis delivery today and look in the bottom of it, you'll see a QR code to download the app. It shouldn't be as painful as it was to make that true, right? So it's critical for me is how you create a shared language across the organization. In terms of what we've done, from a strategy point of view, we are getting clearer on the answers to some of those questions. A good example of that is we now have an app segmentation in JL where I'm able to point at any customer in the database and say whether they are one of 6 types of value customers for us. And therefore, are they a sort of customer we want to retain in the experience or the sort of customer we want to acquire into the experience? We can be super clear with that. We've given that over to our marketing guys, and marketing performance has gone through the roof as a result, as has early stage retention, as has the customer value metrics. So we're super clear on who we want to be in the app. And if I go back to my definition of strategy before, we're super clear who we don't want to be in the app. We have a fantastic website, we have fantastic stores. They can go and shop there. The app is for very specific types of customers that create value in very specific types of ways. From a product point of view, the OKR taxonomy in John Lewis is a thing of beauty. The guys can take the metric that they're trying to deliver the quarter into the metric we're trying to deliver for the year into the 3-year strategy. But critically, what we've tried to do is not tell them what to go and do with that information. So if your job is to improve users by a couple of visits per year, per user, I'm not going to tell you how to go and do that. Here's a team, here's the skills, here's some healthy tension. How are you going to go away and make that happen? And then the last point, that shared language. So we run a value calculation every quarter at JL that proves out the stuff that I say is important in the target button, and we publish it. So regardless of whether it's good, bad, ugly, fantastic, record-breaking, we tell the business how our app is performing in terms of creating incremental value. And critically, we tell that story across all channels. Because I want the story about the app growth to be a story about business growth. And that's how you create a group of people that all care about it and don't see it as cannibalizing their organization. My Apple moment of just one more thing. This is Lily. Lily is my 5-year-old daughter. She's the shy one, right? She's the one who won't go and sit on Princess Elsa's knee. She's the one that needs encouragement to go up and order her an ice cream. This is Lily with Supergirl face paint on. That girl is going to go and get that ice cream. She's going to go and get Elsa and be in Frozen 3, right? And there's an interesting transformation there where I'm really interested in how do you create art when you have science. So if the previous slide is all about getting organized, getting specific, getting close to your metrics, close to your data, having highly performant teams, where do you create magic? So where's the bit that you're going to do that everyone's going to go, hey, that thing's cool. We hadn't thought about it that way. We hadn't put those 2 bits of data near each other. We hadn't put that insight against that before. How do we do that? Part of it is about psychological safety. We mentioned it before. I think it's super important about giving people clarity, but also space. I think some of these questions are also interesting. If you guys have checked out Tony Fadell's book, Build, he talks about having a sense of legacy. How do you get people who want to be in your team so that they have something they can talk about 2 years later that they delivered? I think that's really interesting. Do you have a route to testing something? Is failure exciting? You know, it's becoming old-fashioned now almost to talk about failure as success, but there is something about you're going to have to get this wrong 9 times before you're successful. The industry average of experiments that fail is 9 failures to 1 success. You're going to have to be wrong a bit before you're right. Is there a space where your guys can do that? And then another interesting question when you're thinking about this stuff is what's innovation and what's creativity? Innovation's valuable, creativity is interesting. So how do you help your guys with the right commercial skills, with the right set of data to do that work for themselves? So I guess in summary for us, similar to the stories you guys have heard today, relationships are super important at John Lewis. That remains key to our business model. The way you deliver that is through apps. You're going to hear lots of data today that continues to reinforce that story, but your best customers are taking the time to download your experience and keep it on their phone. By definition, there's an exclusivity to that. So that's the digital relationship. That's super important to us, and it's necessary in this changing environment. And I think the way you do it is by creating the right stage for that performance to work and be amplified on. Thank you.